Hi students, welcome back to another edition of Duckflix. Today we are going to continue on Unit 7 with Lesson 7.4, Multiplying Fractions with Area Models. Let's take a minute to review the standards for mathematical practices. Remember, we want to make sense of problems and persevere in solving them. We want to reason abstractly and quantitatively. We want to model with mathematics. We want to attend to precision. And if we need any tools, then we're going to use them strategically and appropriately. Let's take a minute to review the lesson scale. By the end of this lesson, we want you to be able to find the product of two fractions using an area model. I actually am also going to show you the standard algorithm, but I want you to understand how you can set up the two fractions to find the product using that model as well. So go ahead and take a minute to pause the video, record your lesson scale and your goal, and then we will continue with our I do. All right, let's take a look at our first problem. Brianna has 3/4 cups of chocolate chips. She needs 2/3 of the amount of chocolate chips for nuts in her recipe to make cookies. How many cups of nuts does she need for her recipe? So let's go ahead and use cubes. We know we have 3/4 cups of the chocolate chips. She needs 2/3 of the amount of chocolate chips. So she doesn't need 2/3 cups of nuts. She needs 2/3 of the amount of chocolate chips for her nuts in her recipe to make these cookies. We want to know how many cups of nuts, how many cups nuts does she need for this recipe? So in order to use the area model, we're going to use a rectangle, and we are going to have 2/3 of 3/4. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to break apart our rectangle into fourths. And we know that we have 3/4. So we have 3 of these 4 parts that are shaded because we have 3/4 cups of chocolate chips. Next, we're going to break this apart into thirds. And we know that we have 2/3 the amount of nuts as we do chocolate chips. And just like we did in the area model with decimal multiplication, we're going to see where these two fractions overlap. And you can see that in these 6 boxes right here, we have the fractions overlapping. So we're going to have 6 out of 12 boxes total, or 12 parts total, and 6 out of 12, if we simplify, is equal to 1/2. So we have 1/2 cups for our recipe, 1/2 cups of nuts, or 1/2 cup. Now I want to show you how to do this with the standard algorithm. Okay, easy peasy. But we also, once again, need to understand how and why we would use this area model. So if we're using the standard algorithm, we would say we need 2/3 multiplied, okay, and that is that word of our 3/4 to equal the amount of nuts. So we're simply going to multiply our denominator straight across, and we know that 3 times 4 is equal to 12. And we're going to simply multiply our numerators straight across, and 2 times 3 is equal to 6. And once again, we want simplest form, so 6/12 is equal to 1/2 cup. Okay, I said cups, it's cup. All right, now let's do this one together. And yes, I'm talking about weddings again. Miss Walker is on a mission to plan this wedding. She is now ordering her wedding cake. The bakery will use buttercream frosting in 5/6 of the cake in each layer. The cake needs 1/3 of the amount of frosting for raspberry jam filling. how much raspberry jam filling will be used in one layer of the cake. And yes, I realize that we're going to have 1/6 of this cake that is going to have a different frosting. Okay, remember, this is just kind of hypothetical. So we know that we are going to have this buttercream frosting in 5/6 of each layer of this cake. Okay, each layer. The cake needs 1/3 of the amount of frosting for the raspberry jam filling. And we want to know how much jam filling will be used in one layer of this cake. So let's go ahead and set up our area model. We're going to use our rectangle, and we're going to have 1/3 of the 5/6. So we're going to break our rectangle apart into 6 pieces. And we're going to shade 5 parts. Because we know that we have 5/6 of this cake that has buttercream frosting. Now, out of those 5/6 portions of the cake that have buttercream frosting, 1/3 of it is also going to have a raspberry jam. Okay, I guess I'm leaving raspberry jam out because maybe some people don't like it. So now we're going to break our cake into thirds, okay, 3 parts. We're going to break the 5/6 into thirds, and we want 1/3 of the 5/6 parts. And once again, we're going to count the part that overlaps. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces out of 18 parts total that overlap. So 5/18 is how much we'll have raspberry jam. So 5/18 of this cake. Okay, now let's do the standard algorithm. So in order to do the standard algorithm, we would say 1/3 multiplied, because remember the multiplication means of the 5/6 portions of each layer of this cake. So we would multiply our denominator straight across to get 18. 3 times 6 is 18. We're going to multiply our numerator straight across. 5 times 1 is 5. We know that 5 is a prime number, which means its only factors are 1 and itself. So 5/18 is in simplest form. So 5 out of 18 parts of each layer is going to have the raspberry jam filling. Now let's go on to the you do. Go ahead and take a look at this question, record your answers in your notebook. Remember to do the area model and the standard algorithm, and we'll come back and check our answer. Okay, and we're back. So for Miss Addison's party, she's making a punch. We know we have 3/4 cup of pineapple juice, and we need 2/8 of the amount of pineapple juice for the soda in the recipe. And we want to know how many cups of the soda does she need. So what you needed to do is make your rectangle for your area model. And we know we have 3/4 cups of the pineapple juice. We want 2/8 of that pineapple, or 2/8 of the punch, or 2/8 of the amount of pineapple juice, to be soda for the recipe. And so we are first going to break apart, is not right, or it could be right. We're going to break apart our rectangle into the 4 parts, and we're going to shade 3 of those 4 parts. And I'm sorry they're not very even, okay, but they're supposed to be even. So 3 out of 4 parts. Now we're going to break apart the 3 out of 4 parts into 1/8. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And once again, they're supposed to be even, so I'm sorry they're not. Okay, and now we're going to do 2 out of 8 of those parts. And then we're going to count up How many of these boxes out of the 32 did we fill in? And you will see that we have 6. So that means we have 6 30 seconds, or 6 over 32. And we need to simplify because we know that 2 can go into 6 3 times, and 2 can go into 32 16 times. So 3/16 is the cups of soda is what we're going to need. Cups of soda. And if you did the standard algorithm, once again, you would just simply say 2/8 multiplied, because remember this means of our 3/4 pineapple, because we want 2/8 of the amount of the pineapple juice. And you would once again come to 6 30 seconds, or 6 over 32, which is equal to 3/16 cups of soda. All right, let's go ahead and evaluate your understanding. Please write down your end of lesson scale in your notebook, and we will see you in class tomorrow. Have an awesome night.